Big it up, big it up. Hearing my voice. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Here we go.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Community Show. I am your host, the Notorious Nerdy D, and I am joined tonight by the co-host of this show, Level Up, Lauren.
What's up, y'all?
Each and every week, we talk about the best and worst of pro wrestling. Whether you are listening on podcast networks or watching us on YouTube, make sure to like and leave a comment on this episode. We have another 7 questions to answer tonight, as always, so let's jump right in. Lauren, what do you have for me?
Okay, so we got word that this year's match between Seth Rollins and Riddle was canceled from SummerSlam. How does this affect the overall card, and do you think that this is a real injury to Riddle or work by Triple H?
Okay. So I read this news this morning. I woke up to this news and didn't know what to make of it. Did a little bit of research, and from everything that I can decipher from what's going on here, it's a little strange to me. I never saw anything that led me to believe Riddle was injured. After Monday Night Raw, after anything that's happened, there's been no evidence to me that he was injured to a point where he couldn't perform at SummerSlam. So when you start to look at, we know we're kind of in the era of Triple H here. Yeah. We know Triple H is going to be looking to put a little bit of his own spin and flavor on every show from here on out. It looks like a work to me. I can't be for sure, but it feels like there has to be a swerve happening here. I've seen certain people come out and say that maybe they're saving this match for Clash at the Castle, that maybe they rushed into this. That was kind of my opinion. I had said last week, I thought there was absolutely no buildup for a match that warranted way more buildup than it got. Mm-hmm. That match needed a lot more to give it reason and purpose between two guys who are extremely good workers in the ring. And it just this came out of left field. I feel like it has to be a swerve. So the other question you start to ask when something like this happens is, we look at the SummerSlam card. We start to looking at round out here. There's a lot of big noticeable names that are not on possibly the second biggest pay-per-view of the year or premium live event, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But there's a lot of there's no Drew McIntyre on this card. There's no Kevin Owens on this card. So now what? Now you're going to have no Riddle and no Seth Rollins? That's possibly four guys that are in the top 10 of your roster that are not on this card. I don't know that I'm buying that. I think WWE would be a little more panicked. They'd be trying to fix this. They would already possibly have announced, and please don't let it be Goldberg. Don't let it be Goldberg.
Yeah,
like, please, for whatever, like, praying to the wrestling fucking gods right here, do not let them bring in Goldberg to fight against Seth Rollins for some fucking throwaway match, because we were going to get Riddle and Seth Rollins, and that was the match we wanted. Don't fucking bring back Goldberg for this match. That's not, they hate when I say nobody and I speak for everybody, but I'm going to speak for everybody when I say
do it.
Nobody wants to see Goldberg versus Seth Rollins. Nobody. I'd absolutely rather get nothing than get that. But then I go, all right, so you have to assume they're going to replace him, right? You think they're going to replace him. Who can you replace Riddle with in this match that makes sense for Seth Rollins? Immediately jumps out, you could do something cool with Edge. They've already got history.
True.
They've already had some problems. I know we've run through that story, but at last minute, at least there's enough history there that Edge could return back and have a big moment with Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. The name Bray Wyatt is going to be thrown around every time there could possibly be a surprise. I don't think this is where you do Bray Wyatt.
Okay. Well,
I just don't believe like the whole Edge and coming back with Bray Wyatt seemed to make sense for me, but I don't know that you throw Bray Wyatt to Seth Rollins right off the bat with no real rhyme or reason. It's just like, hey, Riddle couldn't show up. Bray Wyatt's back.
So if Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt win against each other, who do you think should win?
Bray Wyatt. He has to. You can't bring Bray Wyatt back to lose. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can't bring him back to just absolutely bury him again. And Seth Rollins, like I've said over and over, he's a guy, he can lose matches, come back and be like, hey, I wasn't ready. But here we go again, right? Seth Rollins had a surprise opponent at WrestleMania, and now it looks like Seth Rollins is going to be the guy who just gets these surprise opponents. One name I've seen thrown around that, I mean, I guess it's a possibility because we don't really know the extent of these injuries. When guys come out and say, I'm done for the entire year, that makes us go, okay, we don't need to worry about Randy Orton anymore. But that's a name that could possibly, it would make sense if all of a sudden Randy's or Riddle's hurt, and then Randy Orton shows up to defend Riddle. That gets a big pop. It's a great match. Randy Orton, Seth Rollins makes sense. There's so much storytelling that can go in that. Then you can still do Riddle versus Seth Rollins at Clash at the Castle. It gets Randy Orton back involved. I think all of that just absolutely makes sense. I get, like, what does this do? You asked the question, what does this do to the entire vibe of the card? If Seth Rollins isn't on this card, this is a sketchy ass card. Like, this doesn't, I start to look at it. This was the glue that held the rest of the event together, because you've got the workings of like some good moments in SummerSlam, but if you look at WrestleMania, Cody and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins was glue, right? It was a hardcore wrestling match. It was good, and every spectrum of the fan base enjoyed it. The hardcore IWC and the casual fans, we all kind of came together and went, that was a good match.
Oh, hell yeah.
When you start looking at the SummerSlam card, that match doesn't exist without this match. Yeah, like the casual fans were excited for Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, but most like hardcore wrestling fans, like we've seen it before, and they're going to give us a good 10 minutes. That's what they're going to give us. Bianca and Becky, like we've seen it before. It's going to be a good match, but it's not going to blow the fucking roof off. The Usos and the Street Profits, they have the ability to, but we threw Jeff Jarrett in there, so we have no fucking clue what that's going to be. Lashley and Theory, like I like both those guys, but it's not going to be an amazing wrestling match.
Yeah.
So this was that one match when you looked at the card that I know a lot of people were excited for because it represented wrestling. So overall, if this match is just removed from the card, let's just say they remove this match from the card and we get some weird replacement that makes no sense. Because you got to remember, we got Pat McAfee on this card, who's not a quote unquote wrestler. He's a celebrity who does extremely well. We've got Logan Paul, who, here we go. Is Logan going to be exposed in this match? He doesn't have the Miz to lean on. If this is actually one-on-one, if they don't do anything on Friday to change this to a tag team match, which I think they still are, I think it's going to end up being the Miz and Ciampa versus AJ Styles and Logan Paul. I think that makes more sense.
I'm going to quote you on that.
You're going to quote me?
Quote you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that makes more sense. I don't know that throwing Logan Paul into the second biggest event of the year and saying, hey, buddy, you got to wrestle the Miz. And like, now that we've taken another match off the card, it just moves the importance of your match up a little bit. They've got to do something. There's got to be something. You can't have the biggest event of the year, second biggest outside of WrestleMania. I mean, you can't have the second biggest event of the year and not have Seth Rollins involved, and not just in some weird
100%.
backstage. If Seth Rollins is healthy and able to wrestle, he needs to be in some match. Fucking triple threat, the main event. I don't care what you do, but he needs to be in some match. But like I look, and I said it just a second ago, but what are these big names doing? Why is Drew McIntyre not on this card?
I have no idea.
Why is Kevin Owens not? Why are we just done with Kevin Owens and Ezekiel?
I agree. I really liked that storyline, and I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Kevin Owens was the only thing giving Ezekiel purpose to build that character into something that was sustainable. Without Kevin Owens, Ezekiel is just knockoff Elias. Yeah. Without all the cool gimmicks of the guitars and the lights and the concerts, he needed that. Like it was like an escalator, and Kevin Owens was taking him to that top floor and presenting him to the WWE. Here you go. Now all of a sudden, it's just like, all right, Kevin Owens has turned over a new leaf. He's not worried about that anymore. Ezekiel's being placed into tag team matches where they need him, but they've just gone away from that, and both of those guys are stuck on islands. So I don't understand how you try to have WrestleMania without Seth. I keep saying WrestleMania. SummerSlam. I don't understand how you have SummerSlam with no Seth Rollins. It doesn't make sense. If he's healthy, he has to be on the card. And there was a part of me that thought they had hinted at Seth Rollins kind of aligning himself and mentoring Theory. Could he somehow get involved in that main event They teased a little bit of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns coming face to face. Is there a way that you insert Seth Rollins into that match where he causes problems and sets up Theory to cash in his briefcase and win the title with Seth Rollins involved? Because what that gives Seth Rollins is Seth Rollins already claims to be a part of the biggest Money in the Bank cash-in ever. So if somehow he facilitated another Money in the Bank cash-in against Roman and Brock, it gives him a little bit of cachet where he goes, even when I don't have the briefcase, I'm manipulating this whole thing. I'm pulling the puppet strings. Now, I don't know. Is that a possibility? It is. One name that I saw thrown out here in the last hour that I thought, oh shit, this could be fun. That was Johnny Gargano from NXT, who left the company, has not signed anywhere else. I think Triple H was a big Johnny guy. Triple H liked him. With Vince gone, that's a guy you could bring back. And there's so much history there. If you remember, I don't know, you kind of watched a little bit of the NXT.
Yeah.
Theory and Gargano were part of a faction together called The Way.
I remember that.
So Gargano could get involved. He could beat Seth Rollins and then show up in the main event, because right now it feels like it's Theory against the world, right? It's starting to look like everybody dislikes Theory. And if all of a sudden some of these NXT guys rise up and there's a little bit of an uprise, a Triple H uprise, all these Triple H guys kind of come in and they're the new wave, and they start to push back against the old heads. They push back against the Roman Reigns. They push back against the Seth Rollins and the Brock Lesnars. That could be fun. There is something fun about that. So could we get Johnny Gargano versus Seth Rollins? I think that's highly possible. If he's not doing anything, there's rumors that he was hanging out at the WWE Performance Center with his new baby. Like, he's in Nashville. Did read this. He's in Nashville. He's doing autograph signings around SummerSlam, which is normal.
True.
This is a normal thing. Guys piggyback off of the WWE kind of excitement of the weekend, but he's in Nashville.
Yeah.
Triple H, he's there.
Kind of a lot of a coincidence.
Just put his name down on that contract, Triple H, and let's go. Let's get... Oh, man. Johnny Wrestling, Seth Rollins. I'm all about it. I think
Seth definitely has to be involved somehow. So whatever it is,
well, this is the Tony,
I'm excited to see
This is the Tony Khan special, right? What do you do when all else fails? You just go get another person that we haven't seen in a while and you do surprise entrance.
True.
And then everybody's fucking excited. Everybody leaves happy. And then you still, the big payoff here is you still get to do Rollins and Riddle at a later point in time when you need that. You put that back in the bag, but you also do introduce a new character immediately into the main event mix.
I'm excited to see what happens.
All right, what else we got?
Okay, so speaking of Daddy Vince, with Vince McMahon officially being retired and Triple H taking over creative, when do you think that will officially start to feel the effects of the Vince McMahon retirement?
Did you think Raw felt different this week?
Very, very, very different.
It did feel different. The pacing felt different. I know some people were like, well, it's a go-home show. That's the way I thought it felt different. To come on air and immediately have Logan Paul and The Miz fighting, we were like, oh, shit, is this...
I thought that we had missed something.
Is this from last week? What's going on? We were arguing in the room, no, this is old footage. No, that's now. And so it immediately got the energy up. Instead of that cookie-cutter Vince McMahon...
Welcome to...
Monday Night Raw, yeah. That cookie cutter, send somebody out there and have them talk and warm up the crowd. We're going to do an opening promo. Instead of doing that, we start off with a little bit of action, and then right after that, we do the opening promo. It felt different. It also felt like, to me, much more like the Attitude Era, where we had certain guys appearing multiple times throughout the night. We do a fantasy wrestling league. We are part of a fantasy wrestling league. And typically, when we're watching Monday Night Raw, we look for our guys to show up one time. That's it. If your guy shows up, you're excited. The Usos were on TV 4 times in that night. You had Seth Rollins. You have different guys popping up at multiple intervals. The Street Profits. And it felt like a story was being built and not just... Here's the obligation of putting Kevin Owens on TV for 20 seconds. There he is. Now he's done. He can leave and go home. It felt like these guys were really there and they were really participants in the show. And I believe that's a Triple H thing. I also think a Triple H thing was the way he protects Logan Paul. I don't know if you noticed, but Logan Paul gets booed. The crowd will not accept Logan, but Logan wants to be a face. He wants to be a good guy. That's what everybody's saying. So what they're doing is they're using him in backstage segments. They're getting, when the show comes on and he's already in a fight, you don't know who they're booing, who they're cheering.
Yeah.
So and Maurice is able to get a boo when she comes out.
I did not notice that, but I think that's actually really interesting. So
they're protecting Logan, and I think that's another Triple H thing. It's just getting creative with where you place people within the show, and you're able to kind of hide the crowd reactions that you want to hide.
True. I think that we went to a live show, what was it, in Dallas? Mm-hmm. And then we went back and we watched it in person, and in places where like everybody was super quiet. We heard like crowd noise and all that stuff on TV. So that was kind of interesting. Definitely.
Strategically, where you place the microphones, I'm sure they pump some sound into the live feed. Why wouldn't you? It's a live feed. You're able to do those things. Another question is kind of, if we got a little bit of Triple H, how long until we feel the full extent of like the Triple H creative era? I think that, like I said, I think we already are, but I think after SummerSlam, Triple H will have his hands all over these things. And I think it's already started by removing certain guys, by removing Riddle from possibly, if this is all a work, by doing that, that's already Triple H going, I'm going to start some storytelling here. I'm going to start picking apart this card looked very familiar. Now, all of a sudden, there's some mystery around SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
A card that we talked about just a week ago going, this feels like a lot of the same.
Baby WrestleMania.
All of a sudden, we start going, we don't know if Seth Rollins is going to get a mystery opponent. We've heard the rumblings of Bayley possibly coming back, of Charlotte possibly coming back. We don't know where Theory could cash in or not cash in. There's a lot of mystery surrounding SummerSlam now. Whereas it just seemed like a cookie cutter. Here's a repeat of Money in the Bank and WrestleMania. Just do what you do with it. I do feel like Triple H went, all right, hold on. I'm going to fix some of this. Now, I get it. He cannot dissect the entire card and change it, but there are little subtle changes that he can make. And I think by the time we get to Clash at the Castle, WWE is going to have a very different feel to it. Yeah. I really do. I think that you're going to start to see this Triple H kind of momentum build up. And it looks to me, the overwhelming consensus from people around wrestling is this is a good thing.
It made it refreshing. Like, I've never experienced a Triple H moment, I guess is what you would say.
I mean, so the Black and Gold NXT was a Triple H creation.
See, I didn't watch that.
But people fucking loved it. The IWC loved it. The WWE fans loved it. Then Vince came in and somehow I think like it just got...
Is that when 2.0 came out?
Exactly. So that's what kind of happened was Vince saw it and he goes, oh, that's getting too wrestling-y. I need to turn this into what I want it to be. And he kind of took it over. I think Triple H's health was a little bit to play there, whatever. But yeah. So another question, just kind of steamrolling through this thing is, so Vince is done. And I know you get all the pessimists who are like, oh, he's a puppet master. I don't think so. I think the shareholders, I think everybody, I think there's a lot more to all this Vince McMahon shit.
I'm sure.
I think this rabbit hole goes real deep, and I'm sure that it's going to be exposed slowly. So I don't think he's pulling the strings. I think for once in WWE, there is this break. There is air between Vince McMahon and the company. He still owns it, but I think like Triple H is running that show. Stephanie's running the company. These people are doing what they're put in charge to do. Saying that, how soon can we put Vince McMahon into the Hall of Fame? Because he has to go in.
The next Hall of Fame ceremony is when?
It's every WrestleMania. Every WrestleMania.
I think this WrestleMania.
See, I don't think you can't do that. There's no in the next, what is it, 180 days, there's going to be shit come out. There's going to be so much. And you don't want that stuff associated with WWE. The move to get him out of those positions was specifically to clear and put a separation between him and the company. I think it's 3 years. I don't think you can't do it in Hollywood. That's too soon. So you've got to get a little separation. I think in 2 to 3 years, Vince will be about 80 years old. I think he won't be too old to appreciate it. That's right. You know, I think he will have settled into whatever it is he's doing. Retirement. There's no telling. He he can go start another football league. There's a lot of things Vince McMahon can do with the money Vince McMahon has.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the last of Vince McMahon.
No.
I think we may have seen the last of Vince McMahon as the head of WWE. Yeah, I think 3 years. I don't think it's this year, and I don't think it's next year. I think at best it's 2. So this is Hollywood. They just announced Philadelphia. I think it's whatever's after Philadelphia is when you can put Vince McMahon into the Hall of Fame, probably comfortably. I think by then, most of the dust will have settled. We'll know how big a deal this really was. And then we can give Vince the proper celebration. I think that
that's fair
Philadelphia, enough. I think Hollywood, you're going to get, it's going to be very celebrity driven.
Yeah.
I think that Philadelphia is going to be kind of a Paul Heyman celebration. I believe Paul Heyman will go into the Hall of Fame in Philadelphia. And then whatever that is afterwards, if they do New York or something like that, it would make sense because that's kind of a Vince area. I think that.
Where's he from? Do you know?
So WWE headquarters is in like Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I don't know where he's from, but I know that was kind of a territory for him.
Interesting.
So the reality of all this situation, to kind of wrap it up, is this to me is a good thing. I think it was way overdue. I think Vince was out of touch already. At 77 years old, I don't think he knew what was going on anymore anyway. So this is the best thing that you could do. I wish that it didn't happen with like his name being tarnished.
Yeah.
You wish that he could have accepted kind of a mentor role to somebody, but I don't think that's inside his blood. I don't think he could ever just let it go. So I think the only way that we were going to ever get a WWE without Vince McMahon was just something had to happen to just like slice him off from the company. One thing I did want to talk about though.
Okay. What?
Because I saw Tony Khan, there was an article about Tony Khan, and the question I had was, will Vince's retirement and Triple H taking over WWE, how problematic will that be for AEW? And Tony Khan tried to cool this off and go, look, I've got guys under contract till 2027. Mm-hmm. That's a panic. When you say something like that, that's a panic statement. That's you saying, I've already got these guys locked up. They can't get away. That's great.
I get what you're saying.
Adam Cole can't get out of here. Malachi Black can't get out of here. I get that. That didn't stop Sasha Banks and those people from just fucking going, hey, fuck your contracts. Yeah. But anybody who says right now that AEW is not completely fucking nervous, that Tony Khan is not shitting his pants right now, they're in a state of delusion, because Triple H taking over WWE creative control, he is well liked within the wrestling. There were a lot of those names that jumped ship from WWE to AEW. They jumped ship because of Vince McMahon.
I was literally just about to ask you that.
It wasn't because of Triple H. So WWE is still the big leagues. I argue this all the time, but it's the big leagues. And now it's the big leagues minus Vince McMahon, who seemed to be kind of the problem that was keeping certain guys out of getting the position they wanted to get. If Triple H really comes in and he changes the culture the way that a lot of people believe he is, there are definitely guys who are going to jump ship. I believe wholeheartedly that this opens up a path for someone like MJF to make the change. Unless MJF has already signed a contract with AEW and they just haven't announced it and it's under the table, I do believe that he has to at least entertain the idea of going and sitting in a room with Triple H and saying, what could we do together? I'm 26 years old. What could we do together? What magic could we make if I come over to WWE? What do you have for me? I mean, I guess with no Adam Cole, he's locked up till 2027. That means probably no Britt Baker. Sure. So you're not getting those kind of names. But like names like Wardlow and some of those guys, these people, the playing field has been leveled. And I saw CM Punk come out and try and shit on WWE and do his whole fucking rigmarole thing where he comes out and it's always, the culture's not, Triple H is just baby Vince McMahon. I don't get that vibe. I'm not getting that vibe from the wrestlers who are excited about Triple H taking over. I'm not getting that feeling. So
do you think that like CM Punk is just like salty? Like, you know what I mean?
So CM Punk, and I have this written down and I wasn't going to say it. I don't know that he's mentally tough. I don't know that he's a mentally tough person. I think that he's a very good pro wrestler.
Okay.
But he's a guy, you go over to UFC and you just get the life beaten the fuck out of you. And you're a guy who talked so much shit and had all of this vibrato and kind of swag. And then all of a sudden you get the shit beat out of you and you became Mr. Humble. I don't like that. You got to like put up or shut up. You go to UFC, you think you're all of a sudden you go, I'm an athlete. I'm going to go show people an athlete. And you get slapped in the fucking face and you go, no, I'm just a guy who pro wrestles. That's what it is. Like guys like Brock Lesnar, he's a athlete who does pro wrestling. CM Punk is a guy who is a pro wrestler who does pro wrestling. There is a distinct difference in these guys, right? Roman Reigns is a football player he's an athlete. There are high level athletes. And then there are guys who just get really good at pro wrestling. And I think CM Punk is that guy. And somewhere along the line, he forgot that. CM Punk complains about injuries, right? All the injuries and things like that. But the injuries exist in AEW as well. And guys get put into bad positions in AEW as well. And you don't see him speak up. And I'm actually going to talk about that in the next topic, so I won't go too far. Okay. Last question I have for you. This was just a random thought that I had was... we know Sasha Banks. There's rumors that she possibly could come back now that Vince McMahon's gone.
Okay.
And this like there's no possibility of this happening, but I just thought it was a fun what if.
Hit me.
When we did last week, I talked about Britt Baker and I said how good I thought Britt Baker was. Yeah. And people clap back and go, she's not as good as you think she is. Mm-hmm. I still think she's that good. Doesn't matter what they think. But would you straight up trade Britt Baker for Sasha Banks? Do you think that's a 1-to-1 trade?
Oh, 100%.
Do you think AEW would make that trade?
That they would take Sasha Banks?
And let go of Britt Baker?
Ooh, that's a hard one because I feel like Britt Baker is AEW. Like, to me, she's 100% their star. But I think with Sasha Banks, you bring in, is Snoop Dogg coming with her?
No. What the hell kind of question was that? No.
Well, like when I say Snoop Dogg, I mean... The
essence of Snoop Dogg? No. Snoop Dogg comes because he gets paid to come. I don't think that their relationship is like...
Not like
Sasha
you're my
Banks.
cousin,
Yeah,
come on over here.
I don't think Snoop Dogg's riding the coattails of Sasha Banks. I mean, just yes or no. Don't think about it.
I'm going to say
would
no.
you trade? No, right?
AEW doesn't want to give her up.
That proves my point.
Yeah.
Britt Baker is better than Sasha Banks. Because in the one... Now, no shit. I'm signing Sasha Banks if I get the opportunity, if I'm AEW.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not giving up Britt Baker.
No.
I'm not 1-to-1. I'm not making that trade because there's still a lot of unknown with Sasha Banks. How much of what she was WWE and how much of it was her talent. When forced to come into a company where there's not a lot of creative, like you just kind of, you're you.
I love Sasha Banks. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think that she's a lot of, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, like smoke and mirrors, right? It's the hair, it's the costume.
The glitter.
Because she really doesn't have that much of a personality. Like if I put personalities of Britt Baker and Sasha Banks, right? Britt Baker would smash.
Britt Baker has a
Sasha
more
Banks.
well thought out character than Sasha Banks.
Yeah. And like even seeing her in interviews, right? At one point, she basically said like, I wouldn't say this in real life, but my character would say this. Like there's thought in it.
Yes,
and like
she definitely has a plan to who her character is.
Yeah.
I agree.
For sure.
All right, what's next?
Okay. So I'm going to butcher this name, but
You call him Cesaro.
okay.
Just call him Cesaro.
All right. So
We on this show, we call Claudio Castellanoglu. We call him Cesaro.
I literally practiced this in like
I don't
over and
give a
over
fuck.
trying to
I'll
say
call
it.
him Cesaro.
All right. So Cesaro won, is it Ring of Honor?
Ring of Honor.
Okay. Ring of Honor World Championship last week at Death Before Dishonor. Has Cesaro officially arrived to the top level of pro wrestling?
So people hate when I talk about Cesaro.
Okay.
Claudio.
Okay.
We call Claudio.
He's
my guy
Claudio.
They don't like when I talk about him because I try to speak truth when I talk. Just right off the bat, I'm a big Cesaro guy. I've always really liked him.
Me too.
But there's something missing. There's always been, he doesn't have that it factor. He's extremely good in the ring. He's a great mid-card guy. He doesn't have that it factor. So he won the Ring of Honor World Championship this week.
Yes, it was a big deal. I saw.
And I have a video up from 2 or 3 weeks ago where I said, Cesaro's a mid-card guy. And everybody, eat your fucking words, buddy. Cesaro's a world champion. Of what? How many people watch that event?
I have no idea.
How do you watch that event? I had to go online to research, how do you watch a Ring of Honor event?
I Googled it.
It's a pay-per-view that was free. Makes no fucking sense, but it's what you do. You have to go online, you go through like the Bleacher Report or whatever app, and you're able to watch that event. From what I can tell, 15,000 people watched the event.
Okay.
Decent numbers. That's not bad. But it was a super card event. It was an event put on by AEW where they took some of their biggest names and mashed them into a Ring of Honor event and go, hey, this is Ring of Honor, watch this, right? On average, when WWE did pay-per-views, there was at least 100,000 buys per event.
Ooh.
Okay, so you're 1/4 the size of that event, and that's average, right? A lot of them had 200,000 buys and even more than that. But in 2013, when WWE still did pay-per-views, that's what they did. So Claudio opens the show, and I think that they did that to create buzz for the rest of the event. He wins the championship. Everybody comes out. Everybody's excited. Let's everybody buy this event. Come watch it, or it's free, but everybody come watch this event. But my question is, like, we got to be careful on what we call world championships. This is Ring of Honor. Before Ring of Honor was owned by AEW, 30%, and that's generous, 30% of people could name 5 people in Ring of Honor. Not that came from Ring of Honor, that were currently in Ring of Honor. Because until they left Ring of Honor, most wrestling fans didn't know who these people are. At best, the Ring of Honor Championship, at best, it is a mid-card title. That's what it is. You can call it World Championship all you fucking want, but at best, the Ring of Honor World Championship is a mid-card title. It is on par with United States Championship and the WWE Intercontinental Belt. That's what it is. It is for mid-card talent. So what did Cesaro win? He won another fucking mid-card belt. It's what he did, right? This is like pretending. The IWC, when they do this kind of shit, it's like pretending that the Ring of Honor belt holds prestige in the same way that when WWE bought out ECW, that the ECW belt still had a prestige to it. No, it just became a mid-card WWE belt. By example, they put it on a guy named Ezekiel Jackson. Does anybody remember Ezekiel Jackson? No, most people don't remember Ezekiel Jackson. And those who do remember that he was a bust. He was a guy that didn't go on to do big things. So by this logic, by IWC logic, Claudio, Cesaro, whatever you want to call him, is on the equivalent level of an Ezekiel Jackson. That's where he is. And y'all want to tell me that this belt, this Ring of Honor belt, has so much fucking meaning, right? I don't get it. I don't understand why y'all are so excited about this. Moxley got the real world title. That's the real one that matters. Because there's 2 belts in pro wrestling that really fucking matter.
Okay.
There's the undisputed WWE belt, and there's the AEW Big Boy Championship World title. Those are the 2 that the 2 main stars, they put those belts on the big boys. Moxley holds one, Roman Reigns holds the other. Claudio's not in that group. That group is not consisting of 3 world champions, Claudio, Roman, and Moxley. So here's my problem. Why didn't Tony put the AEW title on Claudio? If he's this big of a deal, if he's this big of a deal and a main event guy, as y'all say he is, I don't get it. There is a clear distinction between AEW and Ring of Honor. If there is this distinction, I don't see it. Ring of Honor is just the secondary version of AEW right now. So I don't understand any of that stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to agree with you. Okay. All right. Hold on. Give me just a second here.
Did you lose your place?
I did, but I found it though.
Come on, bro.
All right. So the next question comes from the former CWC Internet Champion, Corey. He says, I vaguely remember Nerdy D not liking Hulk Hogan. It's always stung that one of my favorite podcasters did not like my favorite wrestler. Why don't you like Hulk Hogan?
So I had to go back and try to watch some of the old podcasts. I'm not sure, and I probably did, but I don't.
I think that it was around the time that we were watching like biographies or whatever on people. Is there a point, and Corey, you tell me this because call me out if I'm fucking lying. Is there a point in time where I said I don't like Hulk Hogan? I'm 90% sure
that
you said that.
I don't like Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, because we watched like a whole video on him and you were like, I don't like Hulk Hogan.
I don't know. See, that's problematic because I don't know that I don't like Hulk Hogan is the correct phrase. I don't know that I've ever been a Hulk Hogan guy because all the gaps in my wrestling watching, like I watched Attitude Era and then all of a sudden Hulk Hogan showed up and things happened in my life where I stopped watching wrestling in WWE. So I'm not sure that I dislike Hulk Hogan. I'm not positive. I do know that I've always been a WWE guy, and a lot of what I associate Hulk Hogan with is the NWO. So I associate the rivalry between WCW and WWE as being Hulk Hogan versus the WWE. So there is a certain part of me that holds that kind of against him for the stuff that happened there. I do know that we gave Hulk Hogan one of the D-Bag Awards when we were handing out D-Bag Awards. But I will say I don't think that's a fair interpretation of who I like and dislike, because we also gave D-Bag Awards to CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio, who are two of my favorite wrestlers of all time who just have done things in life that I don't particularly like. Like I said, one big problem with doing a podcast and a show like this, especially with the way I speak, I just shoot my fucking mouth off.
Yeah.
Is that I don't remember half the shit I say after I say it. We get off the show and 90% of what I said, I'm like, I black out and I go, oh, fuck, I said that. You cut the clips for TikTok and they go and I'm like, oh, they're going to fucking get me when I say that.
It's sometimes a surprise, like, oh.
Yeah, like, ooh, I said that? All right, cool. So, yeah, I mean, after doing the show now almost the entire year, I don't remember exactly everything I said. But my real feelings on Hulk Hogan is, like I said, I didn't see him wrestle. I don't know that I've ever seen a full Hulk Hogan match. So that's on me. I can't really speak to like him wrestling. I every gap I've had from, I didn't watch WCW. I didn't watch wrestling back when Hulk Hogan was a big deal when he was Hulkamania. Yeah. And I didn't watch wrestling when like Hulk Hogan fought The Rock. Those are all gaps in my wrestling watching history. Like I said, the Attitude Era, he was the anti-WWE guy when I watched. So there was a little bit of just despise for that. I can imagine
that hatred.
Then there's some of the racism shit. Definitely comes into play with me. Like, that's not fun to hear about. One thing that comes to mind when I think of Hulk Hogan is when we went to WrestleMania 30 and he came out and we were in the Superdome.
Called it the Silver Dome.
Like he had a couple drinks and he came out and he said, "Hey, welcome to the Silver Dome."
Yeah, and I remember telling you, I don't think this is the Silver Dome.
I don't think that's where we are, and people booed him. So I mean, those are my only things. And on top of that, I've always been a fan of the anti-hero. And Hulk Hogan's anti-hero days were the NWO, where I watched zero WCW wrestling. So I have no memory of that time in wrestling. The only time I have with that is playing video games that he was a part of. So I've always, like, I respect John Cena, but I'm not a big John Cena guy. I've never been a big fan of like the guy they're shoving down your throat. Like, this is the superhero. I've always been kind of the CM Punk guy, whoever's anti-establishment, whoever's I like Roman Reigns now that he's a bad guy. I tend to side with heels more. But one thing, I'm going to give Corey something for me here.
What?
Corey, give me homework. What do I need to go watch?
Do it, Corey.
And this is for anybody who's a Hulk fan. What matches should I go back and watch to give me 3 matches? 3 matches at any point in Hulk's career that I should go back and watch that will give me the essence of who he is. We watched the documentary.
We did.
The WWE Evil, but that was specifically on the WCW Hulk Hogan. And I will say about that, it felt very like cookie cutter. It didn't feel like it got real deep into like the cracks of who Hulk Hogan is. So people give me homework and I'll do my homework.
Where can they send those questions to?
Well, I don't remember. You're supposed to be in charge of those emails. They can send them to us on TikTok or YouTube. On the comments for now. We got to get organized.
I will look up the email address in just a minute.
All right. What's the 5th question today?
All right. So we have, with Paige teasing a return to pro wrestling and acknowledging Britt Baker's tweets on Twitter. The rumor is that Paige has already signed a contract with AEW and is waiting for the right time to debut. What are your thoughts on another WWE X-Star going to AEW?
So every time we get this question, because it seems like it happens at least once a month now, that somebody with an WWE background gets sent over to AEW or gets signed by AEW, and we're supposed to pretend Like Tony Khan never made certain comments that Tony Khan made. And what I did is I went back to 2000, I don't remember what the year was, but I went back and found an article with direct quotes from Tony Khan. And these are direct Tony Khan quotes. He says, "We're spending a ton of money on talent. We're building a great roster, a big and diverse roster of talent. I think that's what's important, and that is that everybody brings something different, but additive. The key thing is that we're not going to just sign every single talented person out there. You can't." And it was one of the problems with WCW. It was that there were too many people under contract. A lot of them were super talented and super great. If you were going to cut down their contracts, you'd be making some really tough decisions because there were a lot of great people under contract in WCW, but you just don't need that many people under contract. Why does that sound like the epitome of what AEW is right now? AEW is signing up all of the talent that WWE lets go. They're signing all of those people. Yeah, you bought Ring of Honor and you're pretending that's a separate company, but let's not kid yourself. Everybody's on the AEW roster. So here we go. We're signing Paige, and I don't have a problem with Paige being signed, because if I could sign Paige to a company, that's someone I definitely would sign. But you have to look deeper into like the details of the issues, because I go with someone like Paige. Why did WWE stop using Paige?
Because they couldn't medically clear her.
That's
right?
My understanding. I believe it's probably that. I believe there was a little bit of Paige tarnished her image a little bit in WWE with some of the stuff that came out. But I think it's more importantly that she never got fully like WWE was never comfortable enough with her stepping back in the ring. So all of a sudden now Paige gets signed to AEW. Now we don't know that she's going to wrestle. She may just be in a managerial role. She may just be, a mentor to people. We don't know. But it feels like she's going to wrestle. It feels like the way she's tweeting that she's hinting at getting back in the ring, that she has a hunger to get back in the ring. What does Paige have left in the gas tank? Can she still go?
I think that all depends on if she's actually medically cleared or not.
And how much wrestling has she been doing, and how much working out has she been doing? How much, I don't know, right? How much rust will be there? Will she come in and when you're rusty and you have certain injuries, there's a chance that you could get hurt. And I do believe when I look at this stuff, and AEW continues to sign people from WWE who have either maybe a little bit of injury proneness or some life problems. Look at Jeff Hardy. They bring in Jeff Hardy after a lot of people were like, Jeff Hardy's not in good shape. Don't bring him in. He's not in a good place. They bring him in. Hey, man, you clearly can see he's not in the right state of mind.
Everybody came out and was like, no, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine.
And then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, what the fuck? With Paige, you go, hey, if she's still even a little bit hurt, what happens in AEW when one of these people who do come over? Bryan Danielson came over. He's got some brain things, right? Some concussions. He gets another concussion and you bring him back again. So you continue to put these cash cows back in the ring. And now let's get this straight. These are grown ass people.
True.
These people, it's not Tony Khan's fault, but to a certain extent, he does need to protect these people. But these are grown ass people. Bryan Danielson knows the dangers. Paige knows the dangers. These people know the dangers. But AEW needs to know those dangers. What if Paige shows up in WWE, has a match with Britt Baker, takes the wrong bump, and ends up paralyzed? What happens at that point from a company standpoint? Because AEW's been extremely lucky up until this point that they haven't had a catastrophe of an injury.
I guess that's true.
You look at Darby Allin has done.
Will only time tell? I mean, is it like inevitable for something to happen?
It feels like it,
right?
Look at Darby Allin. So. Darby Allin's jumping off a fucking two ladder. And I get that the Hardy Boys have all done this, but that doesn't make it the right thing to do. Darby Allin's doing crazy shit. Sammy Guevara is doing crazy shit. Cody Rhodes is doing crazy shit. So AEW is allowing some of this batshit crazy shit to happen. And I get it's good for ratings. Wrestling fans love it. But what happens when Paige tries it? What happens when Bryan Danielson does something or something just a freak accident? I know you can't blame them, but I do think it will tarnish AEW a little bit. I don't know that WWE is a safer company. I don't believe that for a minute. Pro wrestling has its dangers. And like I said, these are grown people who know what they can and can't do.
Would you say that WWE takes less risk?
Lately, I would. I think that they're way more calculated. That's kind of what I had written down here, was that I think WWE is more calculated. When they do these big spots these days, I think there's more of a plan than just, oh, the crowd's going to fucking love this, right? When Darby Allin jumps off of a ladder onto a fucking cascade of chairs that are sitting out the ring, I don't think there's a lot of planning that goes into that. I think that's just, hey, I'm Darby Allin. I do a lot of crazy shit, and I could get a great pop out of this. And that's awesome for Darby Allin, but how long can he realistically wrestle like that? What happens when Darby Allin can't do that shit anymore? Those guys, their shelf life is going to be short. Or you end up like Jeff Hardy, I guarantee you Jeff Hardy's in so much pain that drugs make sense to him. I mean, when you've done the shit he's done, when you've jumped off ladders and jumped off stages, you've got to be in pain. I don't know. I mean, I don't think WWE is a safer company, and I don't blame AEW for this. I just go, when someone like Paige is going to wrestle in AEW, possibly, the speculation is, I think that you have to wonder, like, is the risk worth the reward from AEW's standpoint, from Paige's standpoint? How medically cleared is she?
I mean, I think for Paige's standpoint, yes, because if she really truly loves wrestling, she's going to want to do it no matter what. I think that's how, Daniel Bryan or
I think
Bryan
it's
Daniel
phenomenal
felt. That
some of these people, they're written off as having, and like WWE is not guilty of this. Edge came back from an injury that they said would never be okay. But to me, like, the clearances, you heard about the clearances Bryan Danielson had to get to return to WWE, that he continually presented these doctors evidence, and they were just like, we're not sure, we're not comfortable. And finally he got them to listen. So if WWE wasn't letting Paige wrestle, I guarantee you there's some kind of medical evidence that says, like, the risk, there was a risk here, be it whatever WWE, it may be 5%, right? Mm-hmm. They go, there's a 5% risk that you could get extremely injured.
Yeah.
But that's too much for WWE. If Tony Khan's like going, fuck it,
let's go.
5%, you said? Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't know. Like, maybe he's not doing that.
That means there's a 95% chance it doesn't happen.
All right, let's move on to number 6. I can introduce number 6 here because you wanted your title belt coronation. Hold on.
Yeah, I think I deserve it. You talked about how anybody could have a title belt. Well, I have the only title belt that matters here.
Here's your belt. Take your belt. Come get your belt. Because tonight is going to be the only night you get to hold it up on camera. So let's do our SummerSlam predictions right now. So we're minus one match on the card already with Riddle and Seth Rollins being canceled. So that means we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're embarrassing yourself by putting it on like that. I don't know what you're doing. For anybody who is only listening to audio, she attempted to wear the belt like a necklace and it went very poorly. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches, and then I've got a bonus question at the end of this thing. We won't waste a lot of time on this because I think it's pretty straightforward, and
we'll
see
win again,
if we have any differences. Happy Corbin versus Pat. No, okay, so I got to go on record here. I went to lunch with Skylar, our 7-year-old.
Yes.
She was very influential in my picks because there's a couple picks where I didn't want to make these choices. I don't necessarily agree, but she's talked me into a couple of positions that I may flip-flop here on.
Okay, let's go.
So Happy Corbin versus Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee, hands down.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Pat's got to lose eventually. No. If he's going to be a WWE superstar, he's got to lose eventually. No. And Happy Corbin makes sense.
No, it's not. He's not ready for that yet.
You don't think he's ready for that?
No. I mean, they couldn't have just signed him and then it means by your logic, it's what you said. If they bring Bray Wyatt back, he's got to win. They just no. No,
that's not my logic. No, you don't put that on me.
I'll put that juju
on you.
You
don't put that on me because that logic is insinuating Bray Wyatt is a wrestler. That's what he does full time. So his wins and losses matter. Doesn't matter if Pat McAfee loses. He goes right back to that fucking announce table and does what he does best and extremely well. So Pat McAfee also has the ability to elevate someone like Happy Corbin because what he does for somebody like Happy Corbin is all of a sudden, if Happy Corbin beats Pat McAfee, he can come out and talk about that. He gives Happy Corbin a month's worth of things to say. And who's to say that Pat McAfee doesn't wrestle again at Clash at the Castle or at Survivor Series? You could go Team McAfee versus Team Corbin. I'm going Happy Corbin against all odds here. I'm going Happy Corbin because it doesn't look like they have any plans to get rid of Happy Corbin, the character. I'm going Happy Corbin over Pat McAfee.
I'm saying Pat.
Okay. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch.
I'm going with my girl Becky.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think that they've lost faith in Bianca Belair?
I feel like she's best when she's working towards the belt.
Yeah,
I don't just love her as a champion. And I love Bianca.
How many times can you get knocked off that platform and continue to be given the opportunity to chase? I don't think you're right. I think that Bianca Belair wins, and I think we see the return of Bayley, and we get the Bayley Bianca Belair program that we never got.
Okay.
So
we were 2 for 2.
Two opposites there. Right. So I'll tell you what that does, though. That makes me a lot more comfortable about my first pick because I know at least this is probably going to wash that out.
We'll see.
All right. Bobby Lashley versus Theory. What do you got there?
I'm going to go Bobby Lashley here.
I'm Bobby Lashley
because I think they have bigger plans for Theory.
I do too. I don't foresee, I don't even understand this match, what this serves to do, except maybe just they think that this builds up Bobby Lashley's title run. But there's a lot of confusion for this for me, but I don't think there's any chance that Lashley loses. There's probably a chance that this ends in some kind of disqualification. I'm going to guess that that's what it does, but wait, now that throws a wrench in my plans here. Because if it ends in disqualification, that means Theory essentially could win the match by disqualification. What if somebody attacks Bobby Lashley or Theory during the match? What if no. I'm going Theory by disqualification. I think the Usos attack Theory during his match, or somebody attacks Theory. Sami Zayn, somebody attacks him during his match.
I'm staying with Bobby.
I'm losing this. I've completely gone off the rails.
You've gone off the rails here.
All right, Logan Paul versus The Miz.
Logan Paul. Yeah.
They're not. The Miz can afford to lose a match, and Logan didn't show up to get his ass beat by The Miz. Logan Paul, 100%. We're both in agreement there.
Okay.
Usos versus the Street Profits.
I'm going the Street Profits here.
I'm going the Usos.
Okay.
I just don't.
I'm just feeling my boys. I'm feeling my boys. I feel like they keep on putting them out there more than I've ever seen them in a long time. And this is the season of change.
Triple H is...
Daddy is gone.
Triple H has the opportunity to bring back tag team wrestling, and it starts with, I think, the Street Profits being a strong team. I'm going Usos, but I'm not confident in that pick at all.
Let's go. I'm excited for this.
I'm not confident in that.
Okay.
Liv versus Ronda.
Yeah, I say Ronda.
Ronda's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going Ronda.
I go Liv Morgan here.
I know you do, but that's okay.
I go Liv Morgan here.
And I like Liv Morgan. I like Liv Morgan.
And I'm not the biggest Liv Morgan fan, but there's zero chance that they put that belt on Liv Morgan for 30 days for Ronda to come back and beat her. It's more likely that there's some shenanigans that happen in this match that keep the belt on Liv.
Okay.
Roman versus Brock. Who do you got?
Oh, I don't know. This one's hard, but I'm gonna go Roman.
So Skylar told me Brock.
Okay.
And I don't want to disagree because the last question we have here, I'm gonna jump forward a little bit, is does Theory cash in? Yes or no?
Yes. 100%.
Yes, I think he does. I do think he does. But I think he cashes in on Brock. I don't think he cashes in on Roman. I don't think they want Theory beating Roman Reigns.
Okay.
So, but I am going to go Roman Reigns.
I picked Roman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everything in my moral fiber says that I think there's two ways this goes. Either they're going to keep the titles unified, Brock wins, Theory cashes in, takes both belts from Brock, or Roman wins, Theory cashes in, takes both titles, and then the next night on Monday Night Raw, Paul Heyman stating the case for that was only for one belt. I still believe that's what's happening.
I could very possibly see that happening. I mean, I honestly have no idea. I'm super excited.
I think they have to separate.
I think 100% though.
I do think they have to separate them. I don't think they're the way the company's set up going forward that you need a belt on both shows. Each show needs a belt. All right, last question of the day. This is my question.
Okay.
I came up with this question. And I want to ask you, and then I'm going to answer it as well. But I just had this weird thought process as I was watching a movie, and in the movie it was a sequel where somebody in the movie was just completely recast. A character was just recast for this new movie. We're supposed to just pretend like this is the same person. So it made me think, in the world of pro wrestling, how would you feel if characters in pro wrestling were to get recast or rebooted at a later time like they do in movies?
Okay. I guess, do you have an example of what you're talking about?
So
Because I feel like it would depend on the character.
100%. Like, I get that, like, you probably can't make another Stone Cold Steve Austin. But the Fiend character exists, and WWE, I believe, owns the rights to that character. Why can't WWE just place another character as the Fiend and continue moving forward? We do this in movies all the time.
Yes. And so in that case, I think that I would be fine with it. I think it 100% depends on what the character is for if it bothered me or not.
Because, like, so that character exists, and we keep playing the game, will he, won't he, with Bray Wyatt. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? But it definitely feels like if WWE gets the feeling he's not coming back, why can't you recast that character? I get at first it's going to feel disgusting. Oh my God, that's not Bray Wyatt. But it feels like over time it could become normalized. We do it in movies. I think they did it in like Harry Potter. Johnny Depp was just fucking replaced, and you just kind of go forward with this.
They own the name Bray Wyatt, right?
I believe so, yes, because he uses the Wyatt 6 and the Rotunda, but he can't use Bray Wyatt. That's one thing about WWE is what they do is they trademark these names and they cut these names and make these names funny because they want ownership of that character. And right now it's because they don't want these guys to leave and use that name somewhere else. But to me, what stops them from like, oh, Sasha, you want to leave? Cool. We'll just make Sasha Banks 2.0. We'll just find another person who has all of the characteristics that you have, and we'll call them Sasha Banks. And little kids and little girls will just go, okay, that's Sasha Banks.
I think with enough time passing by, I think there could be another Sasha Banks.
But it probably won't be named Sasha Banks, but what stops you from
Banks
just...
family, like, you know what I mean?
It doesn't even need to be the Banks. Why can't it happens in movies all the time. Now, go even a step further, and what about rebooting characters? Fucking Spider-Man has been played by 10 different people? Batman's been 10 different people throughout the history of
007.
James Bond, right? So, I know this is going to fucking sound crazy, but could you reboot Kane, The Undertaker, and Mankind for the next generation? I understand how blasphemous this sounds to people our age because The Undertaker is our Undertaker. But really think about a kid who right now is 7 years old. They don't have any correlation to who The Undertaker is, but that character is amazing, right? I
would say 100% yes.
So why couldn't you just
go?
Let
it die?
Yeah, here's the Undertaker. And even if the Undertaker kind of gives the blessing to that, this came also from the heels of like, I saw an interview, which is hilarious because everybody shit on me about my Dominic Mysterio takes. I saw an interview with Rey Mysterio where he sat down and talked about Dominic's debut. And he goes, "You're not ready." He told him.
Oh, he literally
said, "You're not ready." He said, "You're not ready, but you do. You're a man. You do what you want to do." This explains so much about Dominic Mysterio, by the way. He also said, "I want you to wear the mask." And Dominic didn't want to wear the mask. So Rey said these things. This explains why Rey is protecting Dominic. Rey knows he's not ready. So he's keeping him close by. It makes me watching Dominic, it makes so much more sense because he's basically training him on the job.
So when he refers to him as like baby boy and stuff like that, he's being like serious.
I think there's a certain amount of it that's like it's protection. He doesn't want to throw Dominic to the wolves because I think he knows he's not ready, which makes me feel more comfortable. But still, I still think NXT is a better thing. But it just leads to even farther. Could Dominic just take on the Rey Mysterio character when he's ready?
I think so. Why not just pass it down from father to son?
That character is a great character. It's already proven to work. The moveset, the music, all of this is a package that why when a wrestler's done, Craig, your brother said this. He goes, "I'm sad I'll never get to see The Undertaker's entrance." Why though? Why can't there just be, and guys, it's not lost on me that how absurd it is to say, why can't there be another Undertaker? Because we're adults and we hold on to the legacy and the nostalgia. But imagine a 7-year-old kid who's never going to experience The Undertaker's entrance.
I mean, I got to experience at WrestleMania and it was awesome. And I didn't even fully understand it at that point, but it was super
You're talking about
cool.
at WrestleMania 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we even got the Hall of Fame entrance, but that's like, no doubt we're at the end of, there's what, 3 Undertaker entrances left? probably at some point when he comes back for special moments. But it just seems like you could recast that character, reboot that character, bring that character back, and acknowledge the lineage. Say, hey, yeah, we know this isn't, like, there are iterations of Batman that aren't even Bruce Wayne, right? So you don't have to say this is the same Undertaker, but this is a new iteration of this character. I think it could work. I don't know.
I'm in agreement with you. I think it would be cool, and it would also bring, like, joy to people that they may have never experienced before.
One last thing that I hope we get out of the Triple H creative era is more characters in wrestling, because it does feel like wrestling has turned more into a reality show than into a spectacle of like suspended belief. Luchasaurus still exists, and I laugh at him all the time because I think it's just funny that he's in AEW and not WWE, because I think that character is tailor fit for a WWE audience, right? Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy seem like they would be huge in WWE. But the days of having great Mankind was a guy who fucking hung out in the boiler room. That was his character.
Oh, I just remember the sock.
Yeah, but that was later on. But I mean,
Yeah.
Kane was Undertaker's brother and was burned in a fire and had to wear a mask. Like there were backstories. Now it's just, oh, this is Theory, and he likes to take pictures of himself. And there's not really a rhyme or reason why he's in WWE other than he can wrestle pretty good. It doesn't. I think that it's kind of lost the art of these bigger than life characters. And I get you need the mix. You need a certain amount of guys that are grounded in real life, but you need your Bray Wyatts. You need those guys. We need a Fiend in WWE. Everybody tells me when I talk about why doesn't Finn Balor wear the demon more often? And the answer I get all the time is he only does it in special moments.
Why?
That doesn't make sense to me. Feels like Finn Balor's in need of a fucking special moment. Like, he's a guy who's buried down on the bottom of the fucking card in a group that makes no sense. Feels like now's the time to put the makeup on. Well, it takes, they said it takes him 5 hours to put the makeup on.
Then eat it up, buttercup.
Or fucking just maybe alter the character just a little bit so it doesn't take that long.
True.
Right? Maybe just make a Fiend mask. Do whatever. I mean, a demon mask. Do what it, but I don't, these characters are gone missing. Damian Priest seems like a character fit to have that supernatural power. And he's just another guy like fighting with people at the Rey Mysterio party.
I agree. That talks like this.
Yeah. I mean, I miss character work, and that's going to make me, you're the old head.
I don't think I've ever fully experienced it, but I think it would be pretty cool because I've seen them in documentaries and stuff like that.
What characters really exist right now in WWE? And by character, I mean like character. Someone that's like, if you saw them walking outside, you wouldn't be okay with it. If I saw Luchasaurus walking down the street with a mask on, I'd laugh.
None.
I mean, Rey Mysterio wears a mask, but that's a luchador thing. That's not really a character. There's none,
that
right?
I can really call out.
The demon Finn Balor, when he does it, that's it.
Yeah.
There's a few in NXT, I think, that are a little gimmicky and stuff like that. But for the most part, wrestling's turned into a reality show, and I think it could benefit from rebooting a couple of these characters, just like we do with Marvel superheroes. I mean, WWE is just a live Marvel superhero world. Why can't we do that?
Let's do it.
You got anything else tonight?
No, sir. I think that's about it.
How long was this show? I didn't even start my timer.
1 hour and 3 minutes.
Perfect. It's beautiful.
Yes, sir. Okay, so before we go, though, if you have questions for next week, please reach out to us at questions@iamnerdyd.com. And again, that's if you have a question that you want to ask us on the show. If you have the 3 questions about
what?
A match.
Anybody who wants to give me homework to watch about Hulk Hogan on why I should be a Hulk Hogan fan.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm open to it. I have not made a definitive I don't like Hulk Hogan. It's not ingrained in me yet.
Okay. All right.
This has been another episode of the CWC Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to tune in every week on either YouTube or Spotify and leave us a comment on this episode. Also, make sure to follow us on TikTok if you don't already. Just search for the Notorious Nerdy D. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. That is Level Up Lauren, your current and soon to be not Notorious Nerdy D pay-per-view champion. And Lauren, ring the final bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
What sound are you hitting? It's the first one.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't show that you gon' find. Tune in 'cause it's online. Hit 'em with